this is where I was trying to get her to see this missed opportunity, is like, go find a food and beverage provider in the area that serves the same audience that you do. Share the photographer cost, share the videographer, create content together, share your audiences, share your email list. Like, hello, like I'm just seeing it as this opportunity to 10x the effort you're going to make anyway by making relationships. Greetings and welcome back to the Kiss My Aesthetic podcast. I've been so excited for this episode because we have Suzanne on the podcast today. Welcome, Suzanne.
Thank you. It's so nice to be here finally. I know we've been trying to put this together for a bit.
Oh my gosh, yes. And we have brands that we've both worked on, but we've actually never talked to each other, which is crazy. So this is going to be definitely an opportunity to share that. But for people who don't know you yet, can you tell us who you are, what you do, and who you help?
My name is Suzanne Droese. I'm based in Dallas, Texas. I'm the founder and principal of Droese Public Relations. We specialize in the luxury lifestyle space, have clients all around the country. Some we do national PR for, some regional, and some just local. And over the years, we've worked with a lot of different brands ranging from Auberge to Gucci to Casa Dragones Tequila, Lucchese Bootmaker. So it's just kind of a wide spectrum, but everything in the luxury space.
Love that. When you were a little girl, were you like, someday I'm going to own a PR company? Like, was that on your radar?
No.
As like a career path? How did you get here?
Because I had no idea what, I'm not sure I still do. No, when it was time to go to college, I was, 17 years old and didn't know what I wanted to do. And my parents were like, you'd be great in public relations. Well, to show you how little I knew, I was like, I don't want to go into a government job. They're like, no, that's public affairs, darling, you poor thing. Look at this. Like, we could see you doing this. And I looked at it like, oh, that's interesting. And it was changed. I was just ready to get out of the house. So I did and just happened to really love it and be good at it. And I come from somewhat of a journalism. I was the high school yearbook editor. So always kind of the grammar nerd and all of those things. So I just kind of started that, went to school, studied that. After school, it was not a good economy to be finding a job. So it was sort of like take the first job you can get, which I know a lot of parents will tell you, and you'll get advice on that. Just find your first job. You can always get another one. I don't really subscribe to that because it was awful and it was miserable. And I was doing event planning, just something kind of adjacent, and did that for about 18 months. And just decided I'm done. Now, when I was 23 years old, that I think I had the luxury of just going, I'm done. So I went home and said, I'm going to start my own business. And nobody told me no. I don't know what in the hell they were thinking. Someone should have. So I started sort of a creative communications agency, was doing a lot of, marketing materials, a lot of, I didn't really do annual reports to get that granular in the graphics, but interesting invitations. I got into things that were definitely in the luxury space. And I did that, when invitations were $125 a piece, which is a lot for can we, and have them hand delivered by a driver in livery in a Rolls Royce or whatever that looked like. So did that, had my kids. I have twin boys who are now 26, probably the age of some of your listeners, and decided, it was, I should just be a mom. Well, I'm not meant to be a stay-at-home mom, not cut up for that. And I think it's also good for your children to see you work. So especially boys, if there aren't other girls in the house. So I kind of had a medium there where I just did a ton of charity work and raised tens of millions of dollars for my city. And after each event, people would say, oh, come work for me, or, oh, come do this. I was like, I'd had that taste of entrepreneurism, and I like the flexibility and to me, time is the greatest luxury. So I was like, no. And just kind of talking with some friends, and I started a PR firm with two guys that I was friends with. One was in an advertising place. One it's a very, very well-known luxury event planner. And he said, people ask me all the time for PR. Let's just do this. You know how to do it. I was like, okay. So we did. And ended up buying them out 2 years later. And we call it the business divorce. It was the loveliest. We're all still, the best of friends, but decided to take it over and really kind of became all female after that. So I've had Droese PR for
I love that.
Many, many years now. And so, I have had two men work for me. One was one of my son's fraternity brothers who did an internship. He was the loveliest human being, but he didn't want to do PR. And then another that was just realized why I have women. So,
oh, girl, we have so much in common.
I know.
We have exactly. So much in common. So I started my design business as a 20-year-old, as a college student. as on the encouragement of
I
my parents,
know.
also, so nobody telling me no. A little kick in the pants and was like, "Oh, try it. If it sucks, go get a job." That same feedback.
I know
But
you're
my
kind of like,
family is
oh, I got to go do this now.
well, now I got to do it. Now I'm not going to back down because I love a challenge. But I come from like a deeply entrepreneurial, female
Right.
entrepreneurial family. So my mom has her own business. I'm sitting right now in her interior design studio, which is where I record the podcast on Fridays. My sister's a wedding planner in Dallas. My
Okay.
baby sister, who's 22, just started her own ceramics company. So shout out Sandy Clayco. But my aunt, my grandmother, my
Right.
great grandmother all owned businesses. So it's always
I
been, you
love
said
that.
that right away. It's like, it's really important for people to see their mom's work. And I agree. I absolutely agree. Because I think women have a superpower when it comes to business, especially in 2025 and looking forward. Because I think we can see the whole picture. Like, I think, this, the analogy of like waffle brain versus spaghetti brain. Do you know this? The difference
Right.
between men and women
Well,
is
remind
like
me a
the
little
waffle
bit.
brain.
Okay.
Yes, it's the
Okay.
idea that when, like, men
Yeah.
have waffle brains and women have spaghetti brains, and the waffle brain is they pour the syrup on the waffle, and, like, each idea stays in each individual box of the waffle. When you pour syrup on spaghetti, it's like the idea is touching every single noodle, like, and I think
Everything.
that's what makes it makes you good at your job, makes me good at my job, is someone comes to you with a problem, and you can say, "Oh, yep, I've got this idea and this, and what if we matched this person with that person and made this come to life?" And that's, like, the fun of it, that's the creativity of it. But what do you feel is like the superpower that women have in PR and marketing that you've seen like through your team and through growing your business?
Well, I mean, I think, and this is probably going to sound sexist, but I don't mean it this way. I think it's just women are better communicators. I mean, and I think that
Yeah.
they listen. Sometimes they listen, and it's not just about solving the problem. Sometimes a client just wants to be heard. And yes, a lot of times it is about solving the problem. But I just think women have that innate. How can I help? What can I do? And whether you're in my business, you're compared to Olivia Pope, the fixer, Samantha Jones, who I don't do
Yeah.
that with my clients. But you
Yeah.
know what I mean? I think it's just like how do you get stuff done? And I think PR is often comes up with people thinking that you drink champagne all day or that you're at parties all the time. And I mean, a lot of it looks really glamorous, but it's just a lot of the work. And something you said a minute ago really sticks with me too when you're saying, the spaghetti, you have to touch all these different things. And I think some of the worst advice that people get, and I mean, I get the concept of it, is don't sweat the
Yeah.
small stuff. Well, I get it. There's stuff that's
Yeah.
out of our control, but like in what we do, I want you to sweat the small stuff. I want you to pour every single detail and understand it,
Right.
absorb it. How can we make it better? And just know all of those things that make something or amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Make it memorable. I love hosting this podcast because it lets me be so nosy. And I'm so curious, how did my name end up on your desk?
Well, it was so in addition to this, I am a partner in an influencer talent management firm.
Mm-hmm.
And there was some influencers we were working with who had started their own candle line. And of course, I was going to support. And they launched. And of course, I'm going to order these candles. And I mean, I think they are so chic and have amazing taste. So why not? And so I did. And it came, and I'm a total sucker for packaging. When I tell you that
Mm-hmm.
I have been in other cities on vacations where I will just go buy something just to get the shopping bag because it's so beautiful, just because I want to look at it. And
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing more disappointing than a present that's kind of wrapped like,
Yes.
that's not a detail. You took the time to buy something and think of something specifically. How is it wrapped? How is it, how are you presenting it? And so I ordered it, and it was hotel lobby candle. And I was so ridiculously impressed by the packaging and the little card on the top that looks like a hotel room key and just a lot of the details. And I was like, okay, this is like really interesting. So I think I started following you then and just
Uh-huh.
kind of following your work. And then fast forward a little while, I had a client who came to me and said, and her email to me, it was probably the same to you. It was like looking for badass PR girl. And I was like, who is this person? Why am I? Okay, so I opened this via email and I talked to her, and she was starting a canned cocktail business. And she said, I really want this to be done by women. The product is really targeted for women, but I want as many women as, you know, involved in this process as we can. And
Right.
so, of course, we got on board, and then she was looking for some help in the branding and packaging and all of those things. And I knew you had experience in it. I knew you did a great job. So I was like, this is who you're going to call. She's female founded and, and can do this. And so it's been interesting because, as you said, we've kind of lived on this parallel path, but not
Yeah.
really. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And now we can add award-winning packaging design because she submitted us. Tiffany didn't, we're talking, of course,
I
about Tiffany
know.
Jones, Avenue 8. She didn't even tell me that she submitted for a contest. She's like, oh, by the way, here's a gold medal in packaging design. And I was like, dang, girl, thanks for sharing. Cool.
Thank you. Thank you
So
for doing that for me.
it's been
Well,
so
she's a
exciting.
go-getter, so none of that's surprising.
Absolutely, absolutely. Talk to us about a client like Tiffany comes to you, they haven't worked with you, they want to work with you. What are those first things that you're really helping them understand to get them to where they're at now? Because what's been so cool about watching the Avenue 8 story is how quickly she's like created a real like brand and a brand story. And I think that must be a lot credit to what you guys have been able to do together because of course we can do the design stuff all day long, but I find sometimes we hand off designs to a client and they're thinking that just the design itself is going to sell the brand, and that's just so not the case. So talk to us about your role, especially with Avenue 8 as kind of like a case study.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, she came to us with a clear vision of I've been at these parties and I'm drinking these canned cocktails and they don't taste good. And I was skeptical too. I was like, you have
Yeah.
to get this product. I need to taste it because some of them aren't good. But so she sort of
Right.
had a clear vision of what she was trying to do. But with all of our clients, we go through an intensive discovery process. I mean, I call it their homework. And it's, a lot of questions of where do you see this going? Where do you be in 5 years? Where are you going to be in 10 years? And sometimes people will say, I want to sell this thing. Well, that's a different story then. Or I want to grow this into this or whatever that kind of looks like. And so with her, it was going through that process and being that she's a brand new brand. I mean, and we have
Mhm.
some that come to us that are established brands and kind of know who they are, but then or definitely do. But then there's some that, she was creating this. So, I mean, we gave her just as rudimentary as here's a list of words, just
Yeah.
adjectives. Circle the ones that are you. I mean, or who would you like to see drinking this? I mean, I'm never going to call Jennifer Aniston and go, hey, Tiffany said you should be drinking, or whoever
Sure,
it
of
is.
course.
But, help us
Right.
get in your head. I mean, I might send her some, and we do a lot of,
Yeah.
celebrity seating as well. But like, who's drinking this and who? And it's asking a lot of questions. What would your theme song be? Again, that's not going to this questions, the answers are never going to see the light of day. It just helps us get in your head because I would say that PR is a very intimate experience.
Right.
And if it's really going to work, and I'll go back and
Yeah.
say, we have a lot of people that come to us and say, I hate PR. I had the worst experience with PR. So sometimes I feel like we're already kind of catching up for, the mistakes of others. But again, I mean, I said it is an intimate experience. I mean, your client's going to call you when they're at their wits' end, when their product isn't selling, or they're not sure what they're going to do, or how they're going to take the funding to the next level, or the very best thing has happened. You want an award, or the worst thing has happened.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I mean, we work with hotels. That's booze and beds, always an interesting combination. We have again just clients all over the place, and sometimes bad things do happen, and they're not in anyone's control. But that is certainly not the time for get to know you. That's not the
No,
time for
yeah.
me to go, let me really
Yeah.
question your ethics. I mean, I know our clients very well because we do that spending time with each other and the
Yes.
really get to know you and go, dig deep on that.
Right. Because it's a relationship business.
Oh, it is 100%. And I think you have to have that trust with a client too, so you can give feedback. And feedback is, I sent this product to an editor. They didn't like it. That is not the end of the world. That means we change gears. We maybe go to a different, editor at that publication, or we sit on it, or we take a different angle, or whatever that. It's not the end of the world. But sometimes when you give that, give that feedback about someone's product, that they take obviously ownership and it's very important to them. And so a lot of people don't take that very well, but or don't take the
Yeah.
negative very well. And I've heard you say on your podcast before that feedback is a gift, and I think that's kind of
Yeah.
we say that all the time, and I take that from my team as well as clients. It's like I'm proud that we have relationships with editors so they can go, just not for us, or I mean, I just don't like vodka or whatever it is. Okay, that's great. So
Yeah, and it's the discernment that you're paying for. Like, I think that that's the thing is, like, the longer I've been in business and the longer I feel like I'm getting better at it as I'm growing. Hopefully, everyone is with their own field.
sure,
But I think when you're graduating past from, like, a solopreneur to a small business to, like, being more established as an agency, it's about knowing what we say yes and no to. Like, I now know what my client red flags are, and I know who's a project that's not gonna be a good fit for us, and I've said no on discovery calls and said, "Listen, you're gonna have way more success if you work with someone that's fits XYZ because we're ABC over here." So, and that's a hard thing to do, especially in business and working for yourself and supporting a team is, like, knowing when to say no and, like, having the trust that you have
absolutely.
the vision. So tell me about something that resonates for you there as far as like, are there brands that come to you that you're like, we would never touch this with a 10-foot pole?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think if we don't believe in the product, we're going to have a hard
Yeah.
time pitching it and really promoting it the way it should be, which I think is super important. That's a
Yeah.
I don't ever want to like agree to do something with a client and go out into my
Sure.
main office where an open concept and go, hey guys, we're working with so and so, and have everybody go, don't please don't pick me, please don't pick me. Please. I mean, I
Uh-huh.
want people to, oh
Uh-huh.
my God, that's
Uh-huh.
great. I'm so into
Uh-huh.
it. And, usually our team knows before and they'll be coming by my office go, hey, I want to work on this account. I'm like, I get it. Or
Yeah.
whatever. But I think it's, sometimes, sometimes the expectations are just not realistic. If you have a brand that has never gotten a lick of PR before, you haven't done anything, you're not selling around the country, you're not going to be in vogue. I mean, it's just
Right.
not,
Right.
we have, and not that we can't shoot for that and get through the benchmarks, but some people are very unrealistic. If they come to me and they go, this should be an XYZ, it's like, okay, well, why? And
Yeah.
sometimes they're valid and sometimes they're not. And, after doing this, and you know this as well, you just kind of sometimes get a vibe and you're like, we're just not your people. And
Yeah.
if I don't think that
Yep.
they're also ethical and treat their teams right, and I have fired clients for that before, I'm like, I just don't want to be associated with this, and life's too short. I'm not, going to be a part of this. But I think it just, I mean, as much as they're interviewing us, I feel like we're interviewing them as well. And we tell a lot
Absolutely.
of people no, and I'd be happy to pass them on to someone else, and I'm happy to give referrals. But sometimes they're just not our people, and I'm
And it
okay
it
with
comes
that.
with practice. That comes with practice of, like, being in it. Like, you have to have been burned to know that you don't wanna be burned that way again. Like,
Right.
I think that's the stuff that we forget to talk about with entrepreneurship is, like, there is a certain level of this that comes with experience that you build on all those experiences over time. And to your point about high expectations, I wanna circle back to that for a second because I think the same thing happens with design, is people come to us for rebranding, or they come for new packaging, or they come for social media management, and then they're baffled that like changing something visually isn't garnering them hundreds of thousands of dollars of new business. And it's like, guys, because this
Right.
is one cog in the whole marketing
Right.
machine. And I think people also conflate what PR and marketing is. In your words, how do you describe what PR actually is versus what people think PR is? Like you said, people think it's glamorous, they think it's just this like kind of at the surface stuff, but to your point, like you can't recommend a product to someone who you've trusted for 20 years and it be bad, then you're harming that relationship with that person.
Right.
So, how do you describe when someone comes in with those
Absolutely.
huge lofty goals? How do you describe what you're actually doing as the work?
Well, the first thing I will say is PR is not sales, and a lot of people seem to
Correct.
think that it is. I can my job is leading them to the water. I cannot make them drink. Again, for whatever those reasons, but I think for us, it's really everything image related. I mean, we'll go back and say, okay, your packaging isn't really conveying your message. It might, if it's a super chic product, but the way it's packaged, it's like we're kind of missing something, and it's all the things image related. And I know sometimes that's just me saying, okay, girl, you can't wear that on camera. You wore that dress last time. We're not doing it again, or it's
Right.
too wild,
Right.
or whatever. But I think it's just everything all the way through what their communication is. I mean, we kind of go through their website too and say, we don't understand what you're saying. And if we're not understanding it, we've got the product sitting in front of us. So I think it's really doing an audit of everything they're doing and then coming up with, what are the angles here, which we kind of divide into two things. One, first is pitching, like what are the story angles? And I'll start on that first. I mean, in today's age, the way people get their information news, it varies so vastly that you can't hate everyone in every single space. So what we try to do is
Right.
kind of divide up the story and go, okay, this is a CNN story. This is more TikTok.
Right.
This is more, and kind of try
Right.
to come up with what all the angles are. So we're kind of telling the holistic story. And if you Google it, you can get that, but it might be a little harder to do. I mean, obviously they like the big brand features as well, but so I think, but story angles of pitching, earned media is kind of the bread and butter of
Yeah.
what we do. We also
Yeah.
do things that we call buzz building. What is that activation? Whether it's an event, and we do a lot of events that have celebrity components and tie-ins to them as well. How's that entertainer going to resonate in whatever city we're in, or what is this? I mean,
Yeah.
to make it a little more special, or I don't know. So and that could be buzz building can be we're doing the super super over the top event. It could be a more modest trunk show, but how are we doing it differently? I think going to a store for a glass of wine and a piece of cheese. Like
Sure.
nobody wants to do that anymore.
No, right. And I think what you guys do really well, just from the work that I've seen you do, is like, how do you connect the experience of the quality of the product with whatever that in person component is? How do you make it something like you're saying, like buzzworthy enough for someone to go say, oh my gosh, I went to this incredible event. They had XYZ. I've never seen that before. Then that uniqueness then gets, you're hitching that wagon onto the brand. And then now this brand becomes something that does cool stuff. And then that
Right.
becomes enviable, right?
What absolutely. And I think you have to like have the brand, confidence if we need to do something special.
Yeah.
We can't just do a dinner in XYZ city, but how do we make that work? And what are the hosts and what are the interesting components? And for us, it's a lot of trust in the people we work with, whether that's
Yeah.
locally or around the country, whether that's editors or guests. And we very much rely on friends of friends and have done pop-ups in other cities where we knew no one and someone introduced us and we've, garnered those relationships. And it's a trust too. I'm not going to invite you to something that I don't want to go to. And
Right.
I mean, at the end of
Right.
the day, like I was saying, some of these boring parties, I'd rather be home in my pajamas with my dog and a glass of wine, and I can probably drink better wine at home. So why would
Yeah.
if it's not going to be interesting, then I mean, I don't want to invite people. And I mean, we'll
Yeah.
have clients just say that, well, we can just have a little this, a little that. It's like, no. If they come and they have a bad experience,
Yeah.
it's going to be even worse than not coming.
Well, in PR, you're also in the business of first impressions. I have a client right now who's like working towards a grand opening event. And I was asking her, like, what are you going to do for food, for beverage? She's like, oh, I'll just probably like pick something up at Costco. And like, to your point, like you get one chance to do a grand opening, like one, you get one. And we've been in anticipation of this thing, like, oh, and but I'm the
Okay, but
designer, so I'm trying to stay in my lane. But
I know, but and maybe it doesn't have to be something that's expensive. I understand when people are
right,
starting out, they're something
right,
that you can't play the whole wide scale catering, but have a specialty cocktail. Do something with an ice garnish that has something in it that's maybe more unusual, or have something
totally.
a little thing. I mean, have food that is like the color of the packaging or whatever that is. I mean, just kind of have that continuity and just interesting. And as I said, I don't think it has to be expensive or
No,
I mean, very few people work without a budget at all, and God love them when it's that case. But
yes,
that's so
yes.
rare. That's 100% like not the norm.
But it doesn't hurt to start making those relationships with the people that you share an audience with. And I think this is where I was trying to get her to see this missed opportunity is like go find a food and beverage provider in the area that serves the same audience that you do, share the photographer cost, share the videographer, create content together, share your audiences, share your email list. Like, hello, like I'm just seeing it as this opportunity to 10x the effort you're going to make anyway by making
Absolutely.
relationships.
Absolutely. And I think that is so important. I mean, we have, in addition to Avenue 8, we work with Casa Dragones Tequila, Castro Elian Vodka. I mean, and we partner a lot. And we have brands that will call us knowing that we do that, saying, hey, we've got XYZ top tier fashion designer coming in for
Or
something. Would you be a part of this? And it's like, heck yeah, we will. I mean, this is a great, opportunity to be, in that league with those people and have our product and they understand how we want to highlight it. And it can be a win for everybody.
yeah. Okay, entrepreneurs, this one is for you. You know I'm all about making your brand work for you, and this is where Sticker Giant comes in. They get it. Whether you're a small business, a creative freelancer, or someone just starting out, Sticker Giant wants to help you tell your stories with custom stickers and labels. They really make your products look pro, your packaging pop, and your brand stick in people's minds, literally. So if you're ready to take your brand to the next level, visit stickergiant.com and become part of the KMA community by using code KMAPodcast25 at checkout on stickergiant.com to get 25% off your first order. See how they can help you bring your ideas to life. You definitely won't regret it. Sticker Giant, your partner in creating brag-worthy branding. Considering you've been in the game for a while, I'm on year 11 of my business, so I feel like I'm climbing up there in the years with it. But
my website says 20 plus, and it probably is 20 plus plus. But
yeah,
it's okay.
no, you've got me on that one. How much has PR changed? If you could summarize it, I know that's a lot of decades to cover. It's a lot of changes, and where do you think PR is going?
Back in the day, I mean, and I'm really going to date myself. Like everybody didn't have email. It was like
Right.
faxing things or actually using the phone. I wish people would use the phone more.
Mhm.
And I don't love that everyone has to text me to see if we can have a phone appointment. Pick up the phone. If I'm busy,
Right.
I'm not going to answer it. But sometimes it's like
Right.
someone apologized to me a week ago saying, I'm sorry I didn't text before I called. I'm like, this is great. Let's just get it done.
Yeah.
But I think, as technology has changed, obviously, the advent of email, social media wasn't even something we were talking about 10, 12 years ago. I mean, even Instagram, I mean, how those things have changed in
Mhm.
TikTok. And I think just keeping up with all that. And I think, um, and those things are going to continue to evolve. I mean,
Mhm.
we'll probably laugh someday that, oh, we used to do this thing called Instagram and it'll be on to the next thing. And I think that's why it's so important kind of play in every sandbox from the standpoint of, whatever the next thing is, you want that community to go with you, not just be
Yes.
like, so I think that's important. But I also think it's kind of sort of made people sometimes kind of lazy. I know you've talked about this before too, so I will share my my thoughts on it. When you get email saying, "Hey, I don't know if you're hiring, or I'm looking for a job. If you're interested, let me know." Or you want to talk? I was like, I have you didn't attach your resume.
Oh, you didn't
For
show me
people
that you
like,
took 2 seconds to figure out if what your skill set is anything that I need.
or they just send their LinkedIn page. I'm like, you know what? Try to give a little
Correct.
effort. I mean, I'm from, again, dating myself, but we used to have to like type out a cover letter, print out a resume at Kinko's or wherever, get it, mail it, deliver it, whatever. I mean, it was not, and I'm like, you just got to attach a document. Like, this is not that hard. And I think when you show me that,
Mhm.
when those come through, I'm just kind of like, it's a path. I usually will, if there's a resume, I'll click and I'll look at it. But if it's like, let me know if you're interested and I'll send you my resume. It's like, if you're that lazy, you are not, again, I think sometimes technology can make people lazy and not share the information in as thorough of a way as I could. If you're going to put it on me to do the research to find out who you are,
You lost me.
you're probably
Yeah.
not going to be great on my team. So there's that. I think, and it will continue to evolve, but it's just like there's spell check. There's no reason for there to be an error in your,
Oh, there's AI now.
and
Yeah.
especially, I know, I know. I mean, how hard
Yeah.
is that? So, again, you have all these tools, use them. I mean, but don't always rely on them because someday that platform might be down and you still need to know how to write a
Yeah,
sentence.
and I think
So,
that's when the chickens will come home to roost. Is that how we say it? Where
yes,
when you take the tool away, if you become so dependent on the tool that you haven't harnessed the skills and you take the tool away, I think that's really where people are going to have to come to terms with the fact that they didn't continue to evolve their skills. I'm a huge AI
right.
optimist. I think there's a lot of opportunity with AI. I think there's a lot of advancements. I think a lot of the repetitive kind of entry level work is going to get really a lot more
Hmm.
expedited and a lot more, I mean, easier for some of these startups and businesses we're talking about, even the established brands. Where do you see kind of forecasting into the future, if we can, 3 to 5 years timeline? Where do you think PR is going to be affected, and how do you think that space is going to change?
I mean, we never could have predicted we were going to be here. Too.
So
Again, I
true.
think it just gets wider and wider with the way people consume information. There are just so many options, and how do you get that message? And I mean, I ask everyone that I interview, what do you read, or how do you get your news, or how? And first of all, it's there's a lot of people who just don't watch the news. They think it's not that interesting, or is too depressing, or whatever. Well, in my business, you have to be watching the news. I have to know if this is a really bad day to be pitching.
Yes.
I certainly don't want to do anything that is tone deaf.
Yes.
And you have to be aware of what's going on in the world around you to know, like, okay, this is not the time to be talking
Yep.
about fluffy
Yep.
things. And sometimes things we pitch are fluffy. They're luxuries, not necessities. But I think it's just the challenge will be technology and just the plethora of how we get information, and really trying to hone that, because it's really hard to be an expert in any of it. I've got a dear friend who
Yeah.
is the CMO of a social media firm, and she's like, anyone who tells you that they're an expert in this, they are lying, because it changes so
It
quickly.
changes so quickly, and it also user behavior changes. Like, I think we're all hitting a point of saturation too, right? Where, to your point, people aren't watching the news because it's a 24/7 cycle of terrible things that are happening. And what that's doing to our brains and
Right.
our mental health is, but there's no money in it for them to share like beautiful stories except for like on a Sunday at 6 p.m. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's hard. So then if your audience retracts,
It
and then
is.
they're on social media, and then now we're getting the same on social media, and you're so right. I've definitely counseled some of our brands like, "Hey, today is not a good day to be slinging product, you guys. Like, let's be a little bit more aware of your community and what's impacting them right now. It's
Right.
not it can't be about sales. 9/11. Like, do you know what I mean? Like,
Right. And sometimes
yeah,
it's super, then you have cancel culture, then you have, which, has kind of gone in and out of favor. But, if you make a misstep, it can be really, really public and
yes,
someone will, go after you. There's a big takedown mentality too, which I get it. People make mistakes and sometimes you just try to be as aware
of
as
course,
possible.
of
And
course.
I think that's, a lot of our job as well to kind of counsel people.
But
But,
people's attention has to
sometimes
go somewhere, right?
things
So
happen.
if your attention
Right.
was, I feel like I've been listening to a lot of podcasts specifically, which I think podcast is another example of that. Podcasts specifically about how we lack common culture now because what we consume is so fragmented, right? So my algorithm is going to look different than my
Sure.
sister's algorithm, is going to look different than my mom's algorithm on everything. YouTube, Spotify, podcasts,
Absolutely.
social, blah blah blah. So to find things that we actually have in common is becoming increasingly more difficult. And I just interviewed before talking to you today, a woman who is the wife of a professional athlete who's now aligned herself with a real estate group that we work with, and she's coming on as their like sports and executive concierge. And we were talking about how sports really does
Okay.
feel like one of those sports and in-person live events that are one of one, concerts, sports games, things that really
Right.
truly bring people together are going to be, in my mind, a luxury and in my mind, a premium because it's going to be something that you do with other people that we just don't have as much of anymore. Do you think you agree with that?
Absolutely. And I think that those in person moments with, your people, your tribe, meeting new people to be a part of that group, or they just fulfill you in a very different
Right.
way. And it's different than, oh, I scrolled on Instagram and I sort of have a relationship with them because I
Yeah.
liked their stuff. I mean, or said, way to go, or whatever. That's hardly a relation, does a relationship make. And I think no, I definitely think the in-person stuff. And again, to me, that's a thing of, sometimes you just have to pick up the phone. You
Yeah.
can probably get it
Yep.
done, in a more expedient manner. But I think, we have a lot of generation that's not real comfortable
Yep.
with that. I find that sometimes people on my team who are younger, if I ask them, I just pick up the phone, just call them. They'll go to the phone booth or they'll go outside. I'm like,
Just call. Yeah. Yeah.
just call. I mean, but if you were ever in the era before
Yeah.
cell phones and you wanted to call a friend, you'd have to go, "Hi, Mrs. Jones. This is
Right.
Suzanne. Is Lisa there?" And you'd have to have this etiquette and, you knew how to do those things. And I think some of that's been a little missed. So I think hopefully we'll see ourselves move back to some of that where people are more
Yeah.
comfortable being in live
Yeah,
situations.
and comfortable speaking to people that may not be their quote unquote tribe, right? Like being a bit more of a
Right.
chameleon and a little bit more tolerant of other types of people in other types of spaces. I think that again, if we're only ever
Right.
hanging out groupthink wise, this is also damaging to your brand. It's also damaging to you as an entrepreneur
Right.
to be you could be missing out on a whole segment of your audience by not thinking that you can bridge the gap, right? So it is really interesting, but I'm curious also to hear your thoughts on how you think luxury is changing and what luxury actually means. Because I like to say that we like to work with luxury lifestyle products. I don't particularly want to sell like toilet bowl cleaners or like help with that. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
But I think there are lifestyle brands that our team has in our portfolio that the part of the luxury is the storytelling and it's the solving of the problem. And that's to me what luxury has meant is like solving a problem for a very specific person in a very specific way. But in your words, how do you kind of describe what luxury looks like from a PR perspective?
Well, I mean, to me, lecture can mean a lot of different things, and it's kind of personal to you of what it
Right.
means. For me, it's time, it's ease, it's going to make my life better.
Mhm.
You know, obviously, it's something that I find aesthetically
Mhm.
pleasing, but I think sometimes people just think of luxury and think expensive or out of reach or
Unattainable.
unattainable. And that's not really the case. I mean, when we say luxury, we're very much like you. We're not doing toilet paper or something that you really just
Sure.
need. It might be something that maybe you need, but maybe it's a premium level of a certain way. I mean, like if it's a water or something like that. I mean, we all need water to drink. We can drink it out of the tap, or we can drink something that enhances um or whatever
Right.
the story is behind that brand. But so I think that's sometimes where luxury kind of gets a bad rap. Again, to me, it's luxury is we talk about quiet
Mhm.
luxury. We talk about considered luxury. We talk about luxury isn't always a fashion brand that's coming out with 4 to 6 different lines in a year. Sometimes it's stuff, something I can wear
Right.
year round. That's
Right.
luxury, whatever. So I sometimes think luxury gets a bad rap. And yes, sometimes it is expensive. Sometimes it's about how something is made. And I think the luxury consumer wants to know how something's made and ethically sourced and who are the people behind the brand. Are they decent human beings? I mean, do they treat their people well? Do they, give some of their proceeds to, charity? Or how do they, or are they just horrible people who are just
Yeah.
in it for a buck?
Yeah.
And I think that's where I think like social media in the world has kind of lifted the veil on a lot of that. And a lot of publications have taken a deep dive into that, knowing what time a certain fashion designer takes a bath and what they do with their day and what they have for breakfast and all of that. I think people want to know those things. I think that's more important to people than, oh, this just feels good and it looks really
Well,
pretty.
conscious consumerism, because I think as again, our culture is getting more
Absolutely.
fractured. We don't have as much share culture. We're not all watching the same sitcoms or even the same reality shows anymore. Like we want things to feel like what we wear, and this is what I describe as what's so important about branding as well. What we wear, what we eat, where we go, where we stay, then becomes also what you're projecting out to other people are your values. So like I'm going to go out of my way to shop
Absolutely.
woman owned because that's important to me. I'm going to go out of my way to shop
Right.
minority owned because that's important to me. I'm going to go out of my way to shop brands that use sustainable practices or not try to order so much stuff from Amazon, like because those are aligned to me and I want that to be part of who my personal brand is. How do you kind of consider that in building not only your business but yourself as a professional? Because PR has a lot to do with personal brand too. What are the things that are super
It
important to
does.
you as Suzanne, the business owner?
Um,
Yes.
Manners. I know I've been called Miss Manners. I've been called the grammar Nazi. I've been called plenty of things. But again, just really paying attention to detail. I mean, there will be people who tell you they've worked for me that probably say I'm very demanding. And I really would like to prefer them to say I'm very precise.
Mhm.
I take it very seriously when brands hire us to shepherd their brand, their product. A lot of people have poured their life savings
Sure.
or their heart into it, or they're doing that for a larger brand. But we have a big responsibility, and to me, it's like we're doing what we said we're going to do, and then even more. And that's I think why we've had the longevity that we do. Is we promise and we usually over deliver. If we're not, then I will come back to you and go, we're not the people for you. This isn't working or whatever. But I think it's hard, I think, in an agency because I feel like there's the
Sure.
personal brand and it is Droese PR. So there's
Yeah.
a lot of my personal brand on it. I'm sure, you kind of have the same thing. And then, when you have people of different ages that have they want their own personal brand. And that can be tricky sometimes. Not that they have to be little clones of Suzanne because that's not what I want.
Right.
I want to hear all the
Right.
different voices and I want to hear different opinions. But sometimes at the end of the day, we're going to do it my way. And I don't mean that it's not
Right.
not a disrespect. That is
Yeah.
my gut feeling for this particular item based on the experience that I have, based on what I know. You're happy to try to convince me otherwise, but if we're at a
Yeah.
stalemate,
Well, you found a
we usually
formula
know
that
that's going to
works. Like you
happen.
found a formula that's obviously kept you in business as long as you have been and keeps you in business. And it is kind of that nature nurture or kind of do you find the team person that fits the mold that you've set or do you let them then influence also the business? And I think that's what's really fun about being a business owner right now is like you can have both. Just because I've always done it this way doesn't mean it always has to be this way, but I am going to hold you to this standard, and if that standard can't be met, we're not going to work well together. And I think that's
Absolutely.
again where it's our responsibility as leaders and leaders of teams to really find that balance.
Well, and it's great when they come in and say, why do we do it this way? And I don't
Yeah,
mean that in a disrespectful way, but I'm just trying to understand. And sometimes it's like, well, I don't know. I mean, because we have for whatever and it seemed to work. And I've had people say, can we change the format of this and or how we are reporting or a call
sure.
strategy or whatever? And I'm like, give us
Yeah.
your best shot. Let's see what we can do. And, typically it's working together to make something better. And I love that. I think you have to have fresh eyes. And I think, again, my team is of all different ages. And that's super refreshing to me because then we'll all kind of meet in the middle and all, want the same thing to eat or we're all
Sure.
watching the same TV show at the same time or we're all doing whatever. But then they'll be talking about another brand that appeals to them. And I'll be like, I
Yeah.
have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Please inform me. I love that. And then I'll say things to them, about business or other things. And they're like, really? That's how, and so we're
Yeah.
all learning from each other. And I think that's what you have to do. I think if you're ever like this, this is, I'm going to probably regret saying this, but I think, when you're a business owner, it's like it's probably at the end of the day, you do
Yes.
want all these voices, and I mean, I'd like to say it's a democracy, but
Yeah.
it's really not. It's a
Yes.
benevolent
No. Well, your
dictatorship.
name is on the door.
And
No,
it
I
sounds
completely agree.
horrible, but I
Completely
mean,
agree.
but it's like, again, like you can go do all these things, people on the team, but if someone's not happy, I'm going to get the email going,
Yes.
"Hey, we got a copy, or do you
Yes.
have time for a call?" And I've got to go back and do my backtrack going, "What's going on? And what are we doing?" And, that happens rather
Mhm.
infrequently. But again, it is
And this is
if someone decides they're not going to
yeah.
pay us for something, it's because who's
And this
going
is
to
the
not get
bummer of
paid?
naming
Not,
our businesses after ourselves.
not the
What were we
employee.
thinking?
It is.
What were we
It is.
thinking?
Exactly. Exactly.
No, I totally
I
get it.
know.
I totally get
Exactly.
it. If you could maybe like rapid fire, if you could give a suggestion or a recommendation or think of what's something that you wish that clients that were coming to you knew more about. Like if you're like, "Oh, if I could just get you to realize this."
I wish that they were reading the publications they want to be
Oh,
in before just
yes.
coming and saying, "I want to be in XYZ." Like, do you know what they
Right.
write about? Like, do you, or say that they don't want to be like, "I don't want local."
Why?
It's like, well, local could still
Yeah.
give you in this. And so I think knowing and I'm not going to expect them to know the media landscape the way we
Right.
do. That's our job. But, I love it when clients will send me an article going, "This could apply to my product, or this would be cool." I don't care if it's just a screenshot or whatever, or a link. It's like, I think, but the
Right.
ones that are just like, I have to have,
Right.
I have to be in
Right.
Forbes or the Wall Street Journal. It's like,
Yeah, and
why?
also that there's such
And if you
right.
don't know the
There's such
why,
interesting journalism has changed so much because I think the
absolutely.
clickbaity and like I get emails all the time that's like, "Do you want to pay to be in Forbes 15 designers that are making waves?" And it's on Forbes and you're like, "But you got to pay to be in it." And I'm just like, "Yes, but also no, but also
Yeah. No,
now that list of 15 people, are those really the 15 most suited people for that amount of coverage?
you want to sit with.
Are they legit? Are they in business? Are those good people? Do I want to be in cahoots with that?
Or they the
Or are they the
15 people
15
that
people that
wrote
wrote
the
you the check
check.
first?" And that is so disheartening to me to kind of see that from the other side because I'm just like, "Oh, that makes me feel like a little bit yucky." Versus you kind of I've always been on
Right.
the team of like I love earned media. Like if so, I got picked up, Wall Street Journal picked up my podcast because I made an episode about why Bumble's rebrand a few years ago was like the worst thing they could have done. Uh-huh.
I saw it. I saw it. They've been a client
Okay,
over the years, so
you
I
caught wind
definitely
of that
listened to
one.
that one.
Um, and and that
I
actually
did.
garnered a legitimate press hit. And I was like, "Cool." She didn't actually link my podcast episode in the article, which I found to be a little bit lazy journalism. But besides the point, it is interesting
Right.
to kind of like how much there's also a lot of scam in the PR space, right? Of this kind of pay to play and not
Mhm.
really having strategy or really having message that I think people are getting bamboozled into, which is sad.
Well,
Yeah.
that's where media has changed too. I mean, and a lot of, super well known publications, maybe they're writing about the best black skirt for fall. And it's like, are they really writing about what they think is the best black skirt?
Right.
Or are they getting, commissionable
Right.
links and I mean, it's tricky. And I've had clients or editors before magazines tell me, "I love your product, but your commission number with that brand isn't high enough." And it's like, even if you just change it for this story up to, and it's like, and sometimes with expensive products, you can't go a
No.
high
No, no,
percent. I mean, there's
no.
just too much. So it can
Tricky.
be really tricky. And
Oh,
that's definitely, one of the crazy parts of, is it journalism or is it
right.
advertorial
And
or
then
is
it
it
just makes you have so much more
something in the middle?
respect for the brands that do consistently get that high variety, high volume of press hits. It's like press, influencer, like, and I think of that with Avenue 8. I think about that with Hotel Lobby
Right.
Candle is like, it's both the breadth and the volume that showcase like, okay, this is legit. This isn't clearly just like based on one personal
Right.
relationship that you've, you know, used up to the nth degree.
No, and I think you
Yeah.
have to keep it
Yeah.
wide. I mean, it is, and it's, whether if it's a fashion line, it's editors, it's influencers, it's stylists, it's
Mhm.
celebrities, it's,
Mhm.
it's the whole gamut of what is, and it takes all of those
Yeah.
things to kind of move the needle.
Fascinating. Fascinating. Well, before we go, can you please let everyone know where they can find you, follow
Yes,
you, work with you? I feel like there's going to be people headed in your direction.
absolutely. The name of the company is Droese PR, and our website is drosepr.com. That's DROESE PR.com. And that is our Instagram handle as well, Droese PR.
Yay.
And you can find us On X and Threads and everywhere there, but
Oh my gosh,
mostly
we
on
might need to
Instagram.
have you back for like repeat guests. I feel like I could ask you a million, 5 more questions.
Oh, you're so
But
sweet.
thanks everyone for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, please send it to a friend, share it to your story. Find us on YouTube, anywhere you listen to podcasts. And don't forget to let us know on Instagram what you thought of everything that we had to share. Thanks so much for your time today, Suzanne.
Thanks for having me. I've loved it.
Oh my gosh, a pleasure. We'll catch you next time, guys. Bye.
Okay, bye.